I'm here with Sifu Leung Chi Fai to talk specifically about the 5 animals in Hung Gar. And before I do that, I want to remind you of the disclaimer. The ideas and the principles that I'm going to talk about here are based on my own understanding from learning and teaching Hung Gar and discussions with various people, my Sifu and other people. I'm not claiming that the information that I express here is necessarily comprehensive or precise or indeed agreed to by everybody. And anybody who wants to make comments and suggestions, you're welcome to do so. So let's begin talking about the 5 animals.
Okay, so thank you, Master Gam Bok Yin, to have a talk with us again. And this time we are going to discuss more about the key components of the Hung Gar system focusing on. So when we talk about Hung Gar, there are some symbolic movement come to people's mind, which are the animals movement. So if some of you are the Hung Gar practitioner, obviously we know there are about 5 animals, and we try to copy their movements and apply them to the forms. But the question is, why are animals included in the Chinese Kung Fu, and why does Hung Gar have the particular animals? Would you share more about your idea?
Okay, yes, I certainly will try to do that. I'd like to start by talking about animals in human culture. Well, let me say, in most of the ancient cultures, there's a concept of what I call animism. This is the idea that everything in nature, including animals and people, are all connected. It's a natural progression in understanding the human spiritual experience. We can see examples of the importance of certain animals in many Asian cultures all over the world, including China. And the most notable one in China is the 12 animals of the Chinese zodiac. So that's a particularly good example. In my own Australian Aboriginal heritage, there's this concept of totems. A totem is a natural object, such as an animal. It can also be a plant or even a landscape. And it can be considered as a view of nature and life, of the universe and of mankind. And it's also a link between mankind and nature. We see ourselves in certain things in nature. We see certain things in nature, including some of the characteristics that humans have. So we're an integral part of nature, and we share the same energies and forces with all of nature. In the Aboriginal culture, we have several totems that represent the nation we belong to, the clan or the tribe, the family group that we're in, and also a personal totem. And they are given as a result of where you're born, the family line, the tribe, your gender, etc. And the important one I want to talk about is the personal totem. And usually this is an animal, it can be other things in nature. And it recognizes our strengths and also limitations, not necessarily weaknesses, but limitations. And it brings with it a responsibility for the person to care for and be responsible for that totem. For example, if your totem in Australia is the emu or kangaroo, then you have a responsibility to protect that animal and its environment. And that's a lifelong responsibility. And that means you can't eat it or kill it or harm it in any way. And this principle exists because it's a way of taking care of nature. So you end up having a group of humans who are all about protecting certain things in nature. So that's a way of taking care of it. Now, while the majority of today's cultures may not have the depth of the 60,000-year-old Aboriginal culture, we can all see that nature is a reflection of who we are and what we can become. And at the same time, nature can be seen as a vehicle for developing human potential. We see characteristics in certain things in nature, and maybe we think that's a good thing. I like that particular quality, and we may focus on developing that. So we see that if we consider the spirit and the characteristics and the qualities of the animals. So there's an introduction on how animals are viewed in human culture, and it all stems from the ancient cultures. It's not something that is particularly present in today's modern cities, but if you look at the roots of where we all came from and you go back into ancient times, there is a commonality of animals and animals possessing certain things which we admire and aspire to.